Welcome to Part 3 of the Guardianship Workshop. This workshop is presented by the Superior Court of California, Santa Clara County Self-Help Center and Family Law Facilitator's Office. The contents of this workshop are intended for informational purposes only and do not constitute legal advice. If you need legal advice, please contact a private attorney. This workshop will cover the steps you will need to complete after you file your forms with the clerk's office and before your court hearings. We will also cover what to expect at your court hearing or hearings. Finally, we will cover how to get copies of the guardianship documents if the judge grants the guardianship. Before the court can grant a temporary or general guardianship, the law requires that notice must be provided to certain individuals and agencies. This is called service. You will complete the service step of the guardianship process after you file your forms and before your first court hearing. If you have not completed service by your court date, the judge may need to continue the hearing to give you additional time. There are two types of service: personal service and mail service. Personal service means that the papers are handed directly to the person being served. Mail service means that the papers are mailed by regular U.S. Postal Service mail to the person being served. The type of service you use will depend on who you are serving, as will be discussed on the next two slides. Keep in mind that you yourself cannot serve your papers. It must be some other person over the age of 18, such as a friend, family member, neighbor, or you may hire a process server. For each petition you have filed, whether a general guardianship only or a temporary plus general guardianship, you'll need to have two documents served: the petition and any attachments to the petition and the notice of hearing. For detailed information, as well as the forms you will need to complete the service step of the guardianship process, please see the Self-Help Center form packet, How to Complete Service in a Guardianship Case. The people who must be personally served include the child's parents as well as the child themselves if they are age 12 or older and are not themselves the petitioner. If you are petitioning for someone else to be named as the child's guardian and are not yourself asking to be named as guardian, then the person you are proposing be guardian must also be personally served. In some cases, other individuals must also be personally served, such as when some person besides the parent has legal custody of the child or when there is a guardian of the estate. However, these situations are less common. If the parents are deceased, then any person the parents nominated to be the child's guardian must also be served, if they are not the proposed guardian. Anyone who does not have to be personally served can be served by mail. This includes the child's maternal and paternal grandparents and the child's siblings, including half-siblings and adoptive siblings, if they are age 12 or older. Emergency response services must also be served in every guardianship case. If the proposed guardian is not a relative of the child, then the Social Services Agency and the California Department of Social Services must also be served by mail. See the Self-Help Center handout on how to complete service in a guardianship case for the addresses of these agencies. If the child in the guardianship case is developmentally disabled, in a state hospital, or has Native American heritage, then additional individuals and/or agencies may also need to be served. Please contact the Self-Help Center for additional guidance if your case falls into one of these categories. Any person entitled to be served, whether personally or by mail, may choose to sign a consent and waiver of notice instead. To do this, have that person fill out and sign the bottom of portion of Form GC-211. You may use additional copies of Form GC-211 if you need additional space for people to sign. By signing the GC-211 form, the person is saying they agree to the guardianship and do not need to be served with copies of the paperwork. This form may be signed and filed at the same time as, or after you file your petition and other paperwork. If you cannot locate a person entitled to receive notice of the proceedings after making diligent efforts to find them, then you may ask the court to waive service to that person. A form to request to waive service is included in the Self-Help Center form packet, How to Complete Service in a Guardianship Case, if you need it. Note that you will need to explain on this form everything you did to try to find that contact information for that person. What this means is that for each person and agency entitled to notice, you'll need to do one of the following: have them served, have them sign Form GC-211 consenting the guardianship and waiving notice, or if you cannot locate the person, ask the court to waive service. While you are working on completing service, a court investigator will investigate the need for and appropriateness of the guardianship. They will do this by completing background checks on the proposed guardian and any other individuals living in the home who are over the age of 18. The court investigator will talk to the proposed guardian, the proposed ward, the parents, and possibly other family members and any other individuals who may have information about the child or children. They will also visit the proposed guardian's home. If a parent or other person objects to the guardianship, the judge may appoint an attorney to represent the child to find out more information about the child's wishes and what may be in their best interest. If you have filed a petition for general guardianship only, your court hearing will be scheduled about 10 weeks from when you file your papers. If you filed both a petition for general guardianship and a petition for temporary guardianship, you have two court hearings. One is about 3 weeks for the temporary guardianship, and one is about 10 weeks for the general guardianship. At the hearing or hearings, the judge may grant the guardianship, giving you custody of the child as of that day, or the judge may continue the hearing to another date if additional information is needed or if service still needs to be completed. Your court hearing will be held at the Downtown Superior Court, located at 191 North First Street in San Jose, California 95113. The date, time, and department number of your hearing will be listed on Form GC-020. You should have one GC-020 with the general guardianship hearing listed on it, and may have a second GC-020 with a temporary guardianship hearing listed on it, depending on if you filed one or both of these petitions. You may appear for your hearing in person or remotely through Microsoft Teams. You can find instructions on how to appear remotely by clicking on the Remote Hearing Links button on the court's website, www.scscourt.org. If you appear in person, allow plenty of time for parking and for going through security and the metal detectors. If you are parking at a meter, keep in mind that you will not be able to leave during the hearing to put more money in the meter. The court hearing itself may only take a few minutes. However, there will be other cases on the calendar as well, and you will have to wait for the judge to call your case. This means you may be in the courtroom or on Microsoft Teams much longer than a few minutes, possibly up to 2 to 3 hours. If you appear by Microsoft Teams, keep your camera off and your microphone on mute until the judge calls your case. When your name is called, walk up to the counsel table if you're in person. If you are on Teams, turn your camera on and unmute yourself. The judge may ask you some questions about your request for guardianship or may ask about any procedural issues such as whether you have served all the required parties. The proposed ward, the minor child you're seeking to establish guardianship over, does not need to attend the hearing. An exception to this is if the child is themselves the petitioner. Note also that other minor children will not be allowed in the courtroom, so if you must bring children, please bring another adult who can wait with the children outside the courtroom. If the judge grants your request for temporary or general guardianship, you will need to pick up filed copies of the paperwork at the probate clerk's office on the first floor of the courthouse. If you appeared remotely for your hearing, a filed copy will be mailed to you. There are two documents which together are proof of you having guardianship. The first is the Order Appointing Guardian, or Order Appointing Temporary Guardian, Form GC-240 or GC-140. The second document is the Letters of Guardianship, or Letters of Temporary Guardianship, Form GC-250 or GC-150. Additional copies of these documents may be obtained at any time from the probate clerk's office. This concludes part 3 of this workshop. You have now watched all 3 videos in the Guardianship Workshop series. If you need assistance finding the guardianship form packets or have questions, please contact the Self-Help Center. Once you have completed your guardianship forms, you may email them to Self-Help Center staff to review to make sure they are filled out correctly and completely. Send them to shcprobate@scscourt.org.